Hi folks, it's Switchback. What exactly does it take to plan a backpacking trip? Well, in this video today, I am telling you about all the things that I think about when it's my turn to plan a trip. If you like this kind of stuff, if you're into backpacking and hiking and into the trail, this channel is for you. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, I so appreciate it. One of the things you might be wondering is how to get some ideas about where to go. I am a big map geek, and so sometimes I will just start scanning maps. How long am I gonna have? Am I gonna have a 2-day trip or am I gonna have a 5-day trip? How far am I willing to drive in that time? So I might pull out my maps based on what I'm willing to do driving wise. I can look at my maps and get some general ideas, and then I'll start going online and researching things, because the maps will give you a lot of information, but sometimes the websites will give you more current conditions. For example, a map isn't going to tell you if there's been a burn there in the last couple of years. It's not going to tell you what water sources are reliable. Sometimes just looking at those maps will give me ideas for other rabbit holes to go down. And sometimes those rabbit holes will lead to a dead end, but sometimes they lead to something I would never have found otherwise. For example, I did a trip up to the Trinity River earlier this year, and I found a trail that I would never have found otherwise. And so it was, I don't even remember how exactly I got to that particular one, but it was a rabbit hole kind of thing. And I was like, oh, look at this. This is interesting. And we didn't see a soul the whole time. And by we, I mean Emma, my dog, and me. I also do a lot of Googling and reading reviews and comments. And then sometimes those will lead me down other rabbit holes as well. Current reviews are especially useful. And you'll see when I'm showing you about this trip that I'm doing right now, how I use that a little bit. Another thing to consider when you're figuring out where to go is, what are the goals for this trip? Are you trying to bang out a bunch of miles? Do you want to see grand vistas? Do you want to go to a lake? Do you want to see foliage, which is what I'm trying to do on this trip? Do you want to get in the trees? Do you just want some quiet and serenity and peace? Are you going fishing? What is the goal for the trip? I also like to keep a list of places to check out and explore more, including what time of year to go there. So for example, some places get snow in the winter, some places have no water in the fall, or they're too hot in the summer, or there are a gazillion mosquitoes in the spring. So those are all things to consider when choosing where to go. If you're not already, I highly recommend you start taking notes on this. Who all's going? So is it going to just be you, or are you taking a group? Are you taking a friend? Are you taking someone who's brand new? Or is it someone who's been backpacking more than you have? Do you want to go base camp, or do you want to go move sites each night? Are you doing a loop? Do you want to go to a specific destination? What are the abilities and desires of the people in the group if it's not just you? You need to plan around the slowest and least experienced people in the group. What is the base elevation where you're going, and what is the elevation gain? These are two different but very important pieces of information. If base elevation is at sea level versus if it's at 11,000 feet, are going to require different kinds of planning and time to allow for yourself on the trail. If it's going to have 1,000-foot gain in a mile, or if it's going to have 100-foot gain in a mile on average, what permits will you need and what's available? And that can be a campfire permit, which in California is required even if you're just operating a stove and you're not necessarily building a campfire. Or do you need a use permit for the wilderness area? Do you need a parking permit? There are all these different kinds of permits that you need to be aware of, and you need to research what you need. Some of them are free, some of them require a fee. What is open? So for example, in California, we have all these fires going on, and for a couple of weeks last month, they closed all of the national forests. That's something that I had to think about when I went on a backpacking trip. It's important to honor those closures. How are water sources looking? Are they reliable? Are there any considerations you need to think about with regards to cyanobacteria, toxins, or heavy metals? Usually there will be some kind of a warning, even a sign at the location or mentions on the website. Hopefully this is stuff that you're going to know ahead of time. What is the weather forecast, and what's typical weather if it's too far out to know exactly what that weather forecast is? Keeping an eye on the weather reports as it gets closer and closer to your trip is really crucial. How populated a place do you want to go? Do you want an experience like doing a through hike northbound on the PCT, where there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people everywhere, and you get to develop a trail family and you get to know everybody that's around you on the trail? Or do you want something really remote where you're hardly going to see anyone? Or do you want something kind of in between? The reviews will tell you a lot, And if it's something that's kind of hard to find a lot of information on, it's probably going to be fairly remote. How much shade or sun exposure is going to be on the trail that you're going on? Some places are going to feel more exposed, even if they're not crazy exposed, than others. Being at elevation, it's going to feel more exposed. Being in the desert, being in the mountains, that kind of thing. If you're thinking about taking your dog, look at whether dogs are allowed or not. And that sets up a whole other set of things to consider. And that'll be something I'll probably cover in another video at some point. How safe is the parking lot? So I've seen parking lots that have a history of a lot of break-ins. Even for the trip that we're planning right now, I don't want to have anything that smells in our car because the bears can break in, even if it's over something like shampoo. So I'm not bringing deodorant for this trip. I'm not bringing shampoo. I just don't want to have anything in my car that's going to entice a bear. Are you going to do a point to point or an out and back or a loop? If you're doing a point to point, how many cars do you have? How are you going to get back to your car? Or is there a shuttle? Is there an Uber? Is there some way that you can go from one end of the trail to the other in order to get to your vehicle? Have there been recent burns in the area? Because this is going to affect a lot of things. If the area hasn't been cleared yet, it's probably not open, but there's safety considerations if they haven't cleared the trail yet. The terrain may be less stable. There's going to be less shade. It's probably not going to be as scenic as you might expect. That said, it still may very well be worth going. How many hours of daylight are you going to have each day? So a winter trip is going to have a lot less hours of daylight than a summer trip. Or if you're going somewhere near the poles, you know, if you're going up in Alaska or something, you're going to have daylight 24/7 over the summertime. What's your backup plan for this trip? Because things can happen. It's always good to have at least one, if not two, backup plans. Do you need to train for this trip? And how much time are you realistically going to need? If you're planning on doing 3-mile days and it's not crazy elevation change and your pack is not 60 pounds, it may not require a lot of training. But if you're getting ready to do, 10, 12, 15, 20-mile days and there's good elevation gain, it's got a high base elevation, all of those are factors that you're really going to need to train for. Will you need any special gear? For example, if you need to climb, you're going to need climbing gear if it's class 4 or 5. If there's ice or snow, you're going to need gear for that. Are you planning on taking any luxury items? For example, if you're going to be in camp for a while, you're probably going to want a chair or you're going to want a hammock, something like that. You might want to take a book. Will you need to resupply? If you're going for a week or less, you're probably not going to need to do a resupply. But if you're looking at a couple week long trip, or certainly if you're doing some kind of a long section or through hike, you're going to want to resupply. This is something I have not gotten any experience on. There are lots of great videos out there for that. What maps are you going to need? Do you need to download some GPS maps? Will you need to do any major creek or river fords? Certainly in the spring, it's going to be a lot more water crossing than in the fall. And is that water going to be ice cold? Is it going to have a bridge over it? How will you get your pack across safely without everything getting wet? Is there a high risk of lightning in the time of year that you're planning on going? A lot of places have a lot of afternoon storms with lightning. Do you know how to handle that safely? Will there be a lot of tree fall on that trail? And some tree fall is easier to navigate than others. Once you've nailed down exactly where you're going to go, then you need to start thinking about more specifics about that trail. What are the possible weather extremes? Is it possible that it might rain? You're going to want to take rain gear, at least a raincoat and a pack cover. Is it going to snow? Then you're certainly going to want to take gear for that. What is the current forecast? And again, follow this closely as you're getting closer to your trip. But if it's far enough out, you're going to want to plan for the averages. What are the emergency exits if there are any? If there's a forest fire where you're going that starts while you're out there, how would you get out? Is there more than one way to get out? If you're partway through the trail, is there an exit nearby? What are the reliable water sources? Is there a lake? Is there a seasonal creek? Is there a year-round river? Are there water troughs? Where are the possible places to camp? Are there established sites? Do you need to reserve sites? What animals or bugs do you need to be aware of and prepare for? So do you need to take a bear canister? Do you need to take bug repellent? Are there brown recluse spiders? Are there scorpions? Are there rattlesnakes? Are you going to want a cowboy camp or are you going to feel safer in a tent? Are there rodents? You're going to want to plan accordingly for your food and your other gear if there are. What is the terrain, both on trail and off trail? You're going to want to plan your footwear around that. You're going to want to plan where you're going to go and dig a cat hole according to that. You're going to want to plan whether or not you're wearing long pants. About how many miles and how much elevation change will you have each day? What will you be doing with your time? Are you going to be spending the whole day hiking from one site to another? Are you going to be going on day hikes and base camping? Will you be going swimming? Will you be going fishing? Will there be a lot of time spent relaxing in camp? Keep an eye on the current conditions. You can look online and you can always call the ranger station. Are fires allowed? And if so, what are the restrictions? For example, sometimes there will be no fires outside of certain elevations, or you can only have a fire in a designated ring, or you can't have a campfire, but you can have a camp stove, but not a wood burning stove. Do you need a campfire permit? Will you be hiking in the dark at all? You certainly need to think about lighting and finding a good campsite if that's the case. Are you going to be camping at the trailhead before you go? Is there a backpacker's camp? Do you need to book a hotel for the night before? Will you be driving up that morning? Will all of your hiking be on trail or will some of it be off trail? And if so, how are your navigational skills? What is the terrain like if it's off trail? And how do you need to plan for that? Do you have the gear that you need, or do you need to do a shopping trip or start ordering some stuff online? Do you have the specific maps and GPS maps that you're going to need? I personally like to use Gaia GPS. I really like the map overlays, and you can download specific overlays for the area that you're going. With all that planning, you're going to have to think about food. So food is going to be different depending on if it's just you or if you're going with a group. And certainly the more people that are there, the more specific desires and needs there will be. How long will you be going? And how much more food than that are you going to want to take just in case of whatever? I always take at least one extra meal, and I always end up taking more snacks than I'm ever going to need. Is it safe to keep snacks in the car, or is it somewhere like Yosemite where the bears will rip the doors off your car if you do so? Are you planning on taking a stove, or do you want to go stoveless and potentially do some cold soaking? Will you just be rehydrating, or will you be cooking your food from scratch, or a mix of the two? This certainly makes a difference in what gear I take. What's the weather going to be like where you're going? For example, if it's hot, you're probably not going to want to take your soup and your cheese and your salami. But if it's going to be cold, you're probably going to want tea and hot chocolate and soup and other comfort foods. If it's cold, you can also take things like chocolate and cheese. Are stoves allowed under the current conditions? Usually yes, but it's always important to know for sure. Beyond all of that, you need to think about any fears or considerations and concerns of anyone else that's going on the trip, including your own. And how do you avoid packing your fears? It's always important to plan for and pack for emergencies. So for example, taking an emergency blanket, taking a first aid kit, but you're not going to want to take 2 extra days worth of food with you necessarily. If there's not a very good chance it's going to snow, don't take a parka. Consider the gear that's going to be needed for this trip and what you might need to borrow or purchase before the trip. It's a good idea to do a conditions assessment. This is basically taking a realistic look at what are the chances that I'm going to need whatever it is. Do you really need to pack an ice axe? If you're going to be crossing a glacier, absolutely. If you're going to be out in the desert, probably not. How bad are the bears where you're going? Are you allowed to take bear spray? Is bear spray really even necessary? When I finish up my trip, I like an extra set of clothing in the car that I can change into. It feels really nice to get out of those trail clothes and shoes. I hope that this fire hose of information gets you on your way to planning your first or your next backpacking trip. Be sure to comment below if you have any additional ideas, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button below, like this video, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Certainly, or do you want to go stoveless or potentially cold soak? I can't even talk today.